Hello, today we're here to demonstrate to you how to operate a swing machine, otherwise known as a floor maintainer, a side-to-side machine, or a buffing machine. The principles are fairly simple, but it's not an easy machine just to pick up and start operating. This particular demonstration is a guideline only, so it's important that you read and follow the instructions that are provided in the manual of the machine that you purchased. And the other thing is that for safety reasons, only trained and authorized people should be using machines of this type. So let's get started. The first thing is the setup. In order to set up the machine, the first thing you have to do is to get your drive block or a pad holder that looks something like this. It has kind of a Velcro backing on it, and I'm using a white pad because it's easy, but whatever color pad you're using. The key thing is to ensure that when you're installing the pad on the pad driver, that it is as centered as possible. And the reason why that's important is that if the pad is not centered, the machine could wobble excessively. So by trying to make sure that it's as centered as possible, we'll make sure that you have as smooth an operation as possible. The other thing to note is that the weight of this entire machine, which could be up to 100 pounds, sits on this one disc. So getting the balance right is going to be very important, because that is what's going to make the operation of this machine comfortable for you. So let's install the pad driver. Tip over the machine, set the drive block onto the clutch plate, and a simple turn and it's locked on. Tip the machine back on. The next thing I just want to talk to you about is the safety features of this machine and most machines. So most machines will have a safety switch, and the reason why the safety switch is important is that if for whatever reason the machine gets out of hand or out of control, releasing the handles will ensure that the machine comes to a full stop and minimizes the amount of injury or damage that it could potentially cause. Make sure that when you do practice, you're practicing in a space that's open and free of obstacles, because there are times, and we've all done this, is when you're learning how to use this machine, the machine could get out of your control and damage things. I've had people have holes in drywall. I've had people break furniture. So just make sure that you've got enough space to use this machine and be comfortable to let it swing from side to side. Now that we have set up the machine, we've put the drive block on, we know the safety switch and how it operates, let's plug in the machine. Once the machine is plugged in, the next thing we do is adjust the handle height. Now, adjusting the handle height can be done in many ways. Some machines have levers, others have levers on the bottom. This particular machine has a little tri-lock. And we pull it up, and as we lower it, there are a couple of different heights where you could set the handle. Some people recommend you extend your arms fully, which makes it the most comfortable for them. Others recommend you adjust it to your hip level. I personally like the hip level height. It gives me a little bit more control when I'm pulling the machine forward and backward. So once the height is set to where you want it, lock the handle in place. So now that we've adjusted the height of the handle, installed the pad on the pad driver, let's switch on the machine and see how to control it as we're doing our cleaning. You want to be able to move it from side to side, but you also sometimes want to be able to move it forward and backward. So the first thing to do is to make sure that the pad is resting as flat to the ground as possible. That will ensure that the machine starts up in a stable position. There we go. The next thing is, how do we move it from side to side? And there's a simple rule. By lowering the handle, we move the machine to the left. By raising the handle, we move the machine to the right. Lower, left, raise, right. And that's the basic principle. By following this principle, you'll be able to ensure that you can move the machine in the direction that you want, when you want. Sometimes we do need to move the machine forward or backward, depending on the type of work we're doing. To move it forward, the simple thing to do is to lean in with your hip on the handle and move the machine forward. To move it backward, we do the same thing. Step back, and the machine will push us back a little bit. So you can take a step back, and it'll come with you. So moving forward requires a little bit more energy, but moving backwards is essentially letting the machine go where it will naturally go. Now, the process may seem daunting because it is not a machine that is a kind of plug-and-play type of machine. However, with practice, I assure you that it is something that you'll be able to operate as if it was second nature. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. In the beginning, trying to find your balance feels like it's going to be impossible, but once you do, you'll never forget.